Welcome back. I'm Manny Paiva. The President's Trophy champion Washington Capitals are this year's favorites to win the Stanley Cup, according to the Hockey News. In a survey done by the Hockey News with 91 players from around the National Hockey League, 36% voted for the Caps. There was only one rule in the survey. You couldn't vote for your own team. 10 teams received one vote or more, and in most cases, teams voted for a team in the other conference. Bayshore Broadcasting News reporter Travis Pedwell has been working with us for a few weeks now, and he talked to Hockey News blogger John Griggs about the magazine's playoff preview that hit newsstands on April 5th.
Did it surprise you that Washington was the favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year?
No, not at all. I mean, they've been the most electric team all year for sure, and obviously they had their division locked up pretty much by the end of February, and the President's Trophy has been theirs for the past couple weeks, really. So it's no surprise they've been the best team in the league all year.
Is there anything else that surprised you in the survey?
I did think it was pretty neat that nobody in the Western Conference picked San Jose to win the Cup. I guess a lot of people have been disappointed by San Jose's playoffs the last few seasons, but to not have one of their peers, so to speak, choose them to go all the way, I thought was interesting for sure. 10
teams received votes out of the 91 players. What do you think of that?
Well, it shows the kind of parity that's in the league, really. There's at least in terms of the upper echelon teams, there's probably four or five teams in both conferences that you could say have a legitimate shot at the Cup. A few more maybe in the West than in the East, but it definitely bodes well for a good playoffs.
72% of Western Conference players voted for the Eastern Conference, and 54% of the Eastern Conference voted for the West. Could you explain why?
I would guess that it's because the players in the West think it's a tougher road to get through that conference than it is to get through the East. So once you do get to the Cup final, the Eastern team likely is a little bit more rested and hasn't faced quite the level of competition that they have in the West.
And Nashville's sitting 6th right now in the West. They're battling with Detroit there. Why'd they get no votes?
It's not like Nashville is a powerhouse team. They're a very well-coached team. They play great systems, and they've got a good young goalie. But they don't have those, the superstars that most Cup-winning teams have. I guess I couldn't say for sure, obviously, because I'm not one of the players who voted, but I would say that they just don't quite have the depth in terms of scoring ability that the other teams in the West especially have.
Detroit has been on fire the second half of the season, and normally they make it pretty far in the postseason. Does 4 votes surprise you?
A little bit. I think, if we took the poll now instead of when we did, which was a few weeks ago, I would think that they would get some more votes. At the time, they were probably in 8th or 7th spot, and now they've moved up to 6th and are battling for kind of the 5th position as well. They do have a rookie goalie, and they don't have the depth up front that they've had in past years, so that I'm sure was taken into account.
What Canadian team do you believe will come the closest to win the Cup, or maybe win the Cup?
I don't believe a Canadian team will win the Cup. The best one out there, I would have to say, Vancouver obviously is the best of the bunch among the Canadian teams in the playoffs, and they do have a legitimate shot. Although they are, like I said before, they're going to have a tough road getting through that Western Conference.
Who do you think's going to win the Cup this year?
If I was a betting man, I'd put my money on New Jersey. I think they've got deep forwards, and they've obviously got 2 lines who can score. They've got arguably the best goalie in the world, who I think has something to prove as well after his Olympic performance, and also after his playoff performances the last few years. They haven't gotten out of the first round since I believe since they won the Cup. And in the West, I'm a Chicago fan. I think they have a dynamic group of forwards and a dynamic group of defensemen. If their goaltending can hold up, they'd be a good pick to win as well.
That is John Griggs from the Hockey News. And again, the magazine's survey of NHL players shows the Washington Capitals are the favorites to win Lord Stanley's Cup. I don't think the Habs players voted for the Caps, and they can take a huge 2-games lead in that series with a victory back in the U.S. Capitol tonight. But that'll be a tough test. I know I'm a Habs fan, but I'm not taking anything for granted. That is going to be a huge test You got to think that Alex Ovechkin will certainly play better in tonight's game. Also in the survey done by the Hockey News, Chicago was second with 17 votes, even though they lost Game 1. Wow, that's interesting. Pittsburgh had 16 votes. San Jose rounded out the top 4 with 11. The Hockey News editorial staff is also picking Washington as its odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup. Stay tuned. More sports talk coming up around the corner on 560 CFOS.